And we are live as people join us in the live audience. We'll just give everyone a second to funnel in here for another exciting installment of Borough President's Forum. So welcome everyone who's live and watching and our candidates. And we have Beth Finkel here from AARP with some questions specific to the 50+ community, which I like to say is most voters, because as much as I like to think that my contemporaries are out there voting, you know, that's the most reliable voting block. That's the truth. So welcome everyone again. Welcome to PoliticsNY. I'm Sky, and that's Steve with one eye. He just had cataract and a tie. He just had cataract surgery, so excuse his blindness. And I'm here with Beth Finkel also, who is in charge of New York State for AARP. So we together are really happy to have this forum and be able to introduce the candidates to the community, regardless of party lines. It's really about getting to know the people who are in charge of our government. So welcome on behalf of PoliticsNY and Schneps Media. So we like to keep things loosey-goosey when we do these forums and not set too many rules, but we just ask the candidates to be respectful of one another and keep your time short and sweet. And I won't take up any more of our time. I'll turn it over to our candidates. And we'll begin with Leticia, since she was here first. Mark, no offense to you.
Ladies first, please.
And if and when Vito joins us, he will of course be included in the conversation, but let's just kick it off with a question about who you are, your 30-second elevator pitch without dissing another candidate, and why Staten Islanders should vote for you. And after we do this little elevator pitch, then we'll jump into some of the meatier questions.
Okay. Well, I'm Leticia Ramauro, and I'm running for Staten Island Borough President to make Staten Islanders' lives easier. You know, I have been volunteering my time for over 20 years in Staten Island, doing almost exactly the job of the Borough President as chair of the community board and in various other organizations that are designed to help local businesses and local communities. I am not a politician. I have no political, I've not served in office before. And as a matter of fact, I am proudly not endorsed by any politicians. I am a regular small businesswoman, and I have had enough with what is going on in Staten Island. I feel that, we on Staten Island are so different than the rest of New York City, but Manhattan and the mayors and the city council keep trying to make us like them. We're not like them. We are a unique community, a bedroom community, single family homes, parkland, and we unfortunately are in our cars. And so because we are so car dependent, I want to make sure that we get rid of all the speed and red light cameras that are doing nothing to save lives and everything to pick our pockets, and replace them with smart traffic light technology that will move traffic along the roads, move our buses, and get more people into buses. I want to make sure that you don't need a degree from MIT to understand your property tax bill. And I want to make sure those property taxes go down. And you do that by making sure that people hold the budget. I want to make sure that our police have all the support that they need. And as a matter of fact, they should have a fixed amount in the city budget that is dedicated to them, because if you're not safe, then nothing works in your world. And lastly, I want to use our education system to get kids ready for work. And I think vocational training in our New York City public high schools is the way to go. Training for jobs that New York City needs to keep it running. So that's my elevator pitch. I hope you'll vote for me on November 2nd on the conservative row C. If you want a different government, you have to vote differently.
Thank you, Leticia. And now let's hear from Mark Murphy.
Thank you for having me. I am Mark Murphy. I am running for Borough President of Staten Island to make Staten Island cleaner, greener, safer, stronger. I'm a fourth-generation Staten Islander. I am a business owner here in Staten Island, and I know how to get things done. I get results because if I don't, I'd be out of business. It's very important that we make Staten Island the priority when it comes to the Borough President's office. When it comes to New York City and how they view Staten Island, we need to make Staten Island first. I have gone so far as to establish my own political party, as well as running as a Democrat on this this election, I will also be running as the Staten Island First Party candidate to make sure that Staten Island's interests are advanced in City Hall, that we have a seat at the table, and that seat at the table is an effective leader who is results driven. It's very important to me that the community understand that Borough Hall should be a Borough Hall for all, not just one specific community, but for every community. I have made a commitment to so many people here in Staten Island that I've met over the last few months campaigning, over the last many years of being a community advocate, being a business leader, being somebody who has just been civically engaged in my community since I was a child. And my father was former Congressman John Murphy from Staten Island, who was a two-decade, 9-term congressman, the longest ever serving member of Congress from Staten Island. And you know, that commitment that he had to the island, that he had to every community in Staten Island, is something that I respect, something that I look back upon, and try to continue that type of leadership here. I really believe that we need to have an office that is diverse and inclusive, that has people on staff that are represented in every community, because I can't pretend to know what's happening in Stapleton and South Staten Island at the exact same time. So what I need to do is make sure that that staff represents all of us. It is a commitment, again, to education, making sure that our schools are funded, making sure that they're not overcrowded, making sure that we build more in the north, because that's where we have the most overcrowding. If we have those problems in the south, yes, expanding those as well. Making sure that we have senior affordable housing and it get built for mid-income, lower income, and extreme low income. I want people in Staten Island to stay, to age in place. I certainly am going to be staying here, aging in place, and my bones will be buried here for the next billion years. So I would love for my family to be able to spend those senior years with me, because I love this island. It is a commitment that I have to this community, to this island, and to all of New York City to make it a better place. The city of New York must stop punishing Staten Island and start polishing it. It is the borough of parks. It is the last bastion of suburbia in the city of New York, and I believe that needs to be protected. I am Mark Murphy. I continue to run for borough president, and I welcome any questions that you may have for me this evening.
Okay, thank you very much to the two candidates you see on the screen, everyone. We did invite Vito Fossella to join us as well. So if and when he does join, he will be part of the conversation. So thank you, everyone. Now I will turn it over to my colleagues here on the screen, Steve Witt with PoliticsNY and Beth Finkel, the state director of AARP, who will ask the rest of our meaty questions and maybe some fun questions, because we like to have fun on PoliticsNY and keep things lighthearted. So thank you.
All right. So I don't know if we're going to continue with ladies first, but here comes the first question. How would you ensure that there is an adequate stock of affordable housing to meet the financial constraints of all people at all income levels as they age?
Beth, thank you for that question, because it's a great question. One of the greatest tools that the borough president has is land use and planning. And fortunately, my background with the Battery Park City Authority and developing that 92-acre beautiful site just across the river has shown me the need for proper planning on Staten Island. Unfortunately, up until now, we've had knee-jerk reaction to planning. And what that has resulted in is buildings being fit into neighborhoods that are not in character with the rest of the neighborhood. There are beautiful waterfront views all along the West Shore and the North Shore and some of the East Shore of Staten Island, all near public transportation. I would love to see the 80-20 program utilized better on Staten Island. What the 80-20 program does is it provides affordable housing units in with market rate housing units. And so people all live together. They don't know who is getting the subsidy and who's not, and it's fantastic. We have such a project proposed right now for River North. We have the URBI, which is an 80-20 project. That is though it was designed for young urban professionals. I'd like to keep seniors and young people on Staten Island by making sure that we have enough rental rental apartments here on Staten Island that are not in Uncle Joe's basement, but instead in a building with a doorman and with amenities that are needed, especially when you're over 55 years old. As a matter of fact, my husband and I are really getting tired of shoveling the snow and mowing the lawn. And, you know, he said to me the other day, I can't wait till you're borough president because you need to make sure that there are condos for seniors and another place for us to live. And so that's my vision for Staten Island. Everybody should get to live here. And it's so important to keep our seniors and our young people here because there's a feel to Staten Island, right? You know, we're different, and keeping those traditions alive is important because we are the place that everybody wants to come to raise their family. And ultimately, I'd like to keep them here in retirement as well.
Thank you very much, Leticia. So I'm going to go to you, Mark, with the same question on housing.
Oh, Beth, thank you very much. Yes, affordable housing is an incredibly important thing. I think the question many people don't ask is how to make housing more affordable. And I think how to make housing more affordable from the borough president's perspective is to make sure that our real estate taxes are not outrageously higher than the rest of the city of New York's on a borough by borough basis. You look at how much a $4 million row house in Brooklyn, like the mayor, you know, owns about $4 million of property right now in Brooklyn. He only pays about $4,000 or $5,000 per house per year in property taxes. But in Staten Island, an $800,000 home pays about $9,000 a year in property taxes. That's not fair. I think we need to really start looking at property tax fairness so that people can stay in their homes, that they're not chased away and forced to move to Florida or some other place because there are lower taxes. In addition, we do need to build more senior affordable housing, mid-rate, low affordable, and very low affordable. These are things that are very important. We have exceptional projects that we're looking at in the Mid-Island up in Seaview, where there will be the JCC will be working the senior centers there, where they feed hundreds and hundreds of seniors or thousands of them, I should say, annually. The programs are there for seniors so that they can have a community, that their children can come and visit with them. Those kind of projects, to me, are vital, that we build them, that they are there for our seniors. When I worked in government, I'd say many years ago, for the public advocate of the city of New York, I made it my business to make sure that all of the seniors in NYCHA housing lived in dignity. NYCHA wouldn't turn the heat on in the winter, and I fought to get it turned on for them. When they wouldn't turn the heat off when it became summer and it was unbearable in some of their homes, I fought to get it turned off. I made sure that repairs, much needed repairs, were made so that they had that dignified and that clean and that safe place to live. It has been a commitment that I have because I'm not one to say that I don't know that the days will come where I cannot help myself as easily as I can help now. And I want to make sure that seniors know that they have somebody, an advocate in Borough Hall that will help them.
Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, well, we can't have a debate and not talk about COVID, right? So the next question, maybe Mark, we can start you off this time. The COVID pandemic has exacerbated and highlighted a lot of disparities in healthcare. As borough president, what would you do to improve equity in healthcare in the city?
Well, I don't look at it through the lens of the city as much as I look at it through the lens of Staten Island. We have two exceptional hospitals in Staten Island, and I truly believe that HHC needs to fund those hospitals at an appropriate rate, which they are not doing, based on a per capita model, so that we get a set calculation of how many dollars from HHC annually, because right now we don't get them. Our two private hospitals provide a much higher quality care than HHC does in its hospitals. They have higher quality doctors, and they will provide care at the highest rate, no matter the patient's ability to pay, whether they're Medicare, Medicaid, or uninsured. They will treat that individual with the highest quality care and never turn them away. And because of that, they act as that public hospital, and HHC must make that payment to us. Something that I will fight for. It's something that I have advocated for since the beginning of this campaign. Equity is something also that I think we talk about. We talk about diabetes and different diseases that affect people as they get older. I want to make sure that the primary care can be delivered to people in their communities, instead of building a specialized center that may not necessarily be in a community that serves people that can't get to it. we have a lot of, the North Shore of Staten Island has a lot of people that rely on public transportation. I want to make sure that healthcare is accessible to them through federally qualified health clinics, FQHCs, and they get built, in Staten Island. We have a couple of very good ones. I know for Richmond, for Stapleton. We need to make sure that people can have that care no matter where they are. They don't have to travel across the island to get it. And that is where again, out in Tottenville, out in the far regions of South Staten Island, where we don't necessarily have the large institutional hospitals.
Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, Leticia, it's your turn.
Beth, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question?
Oh,
You went out a little bit.
Happy to. The COVID pandemic has exacerbated and highlighted the disparities in healthcare. As Borough President, what could you do to improve equity in healthcare? The question says in New York City, but well taken response from Mark. What would you do to improve the healthcare for Staten Island?
Okay, so firstly, I think that when I was the chairman of Community Board 1, the one thing that we included in our budget request every year was 20% of the HHC budget to be paid to our 2 Staten Island hospitals to be able to care for the indigent, because we are the only borough without an HHC hospital, a city hospital. So I would continue that request because, we do care for our indigent through our local hospital system. And since we only have 2, we need an expansion of emergency room. We saw during COVID that we were able to put up temporary hospitals very, very quickly. And when I saw that, I wondered why we wouldn't have made the emergency hospital or the emergency care center that we put adjacent to the SIUH North, why we couldn't keep that as an expansion of the emergency room. That's something that I'd like to look into, because with 500,000 people, 2 hospitals is just not enough. But our hospitals are not used the way they used to be used. Our beds, most procedures now are outpatient or a day or 2. So we don't need full-blown hospitals. What we need are dialysis, we need diabetes centers, we need emergency rooms so that we can take care of those people who are in need in the short term. Staten Island is getting older, and we have to be able to ensure that we have a great network of healthcare, and we do here. I mean, Rumsey and SIUH, they do a fantastic job, and the fact that they handle 500,000 people is just remarkable to me. So my hat's off to both of them. But we do need that extra money, and we do need that added emergency room those emergency room services that can't be given with these pop-up urgent cares. So as Borough President, that is what I would be focusing on.
Thank
Beth,
you so
can I
much.
interject with a quick
Please.
comment? Yes or
Sure.
no? Yes or no? Do you support a vaccine mandate for senior centers and schools and all public, not private entities, public entities?
Yeah, Steve, I support the vaccine. I am not anti-vax, but I also I am negative on mandates. I think that every individual needs to consult with their physician about how to handle their health care, because that vaccine does not fit all sizes. Just like the flu shot, not everybody can take it. This vaccine, not everybody can take it. And so really it has to be done in consultation with somebody's physician. To just make it as if it's, everybody can take it, I think that is misleading to people, and I think we should be cognizant of that. This mandate has lost us a lot of healthcare workers, and that means that there are going to be people suffering on the other side who cannot be cared for by a healthcare worker. So the mandate may have, the idea or intention was to protect people, but at the end of the day, if we don't have enough healthcare workers, people may die from that. So we have to balance things out. Mandates bad, vaccine good, consult your physician.
And Mark, on that?
Well, look, I am vaccinated. I just got my booster shot last week, and I got my flu shot this year too. And I even got a tetanus shot because my 8-year mark was up. I do believe that healthcare workers in New York need to be mandated to have their vaccine. It's federal dollars that come from Medicaid into the state. The federal government's going to demand that healthcare workers who get paid from those dollars are going to have to get their vaccine. As it relates to our educational, our schools, look, we have unions that represent those teachers, and that's not in their contract, and they need to collectively bargain with the city to make sure that the city does the right thing by them. The vast majority of the school teachers in New York City have been vaccinated. I look at IS-61 when the mandate went in from the mayor, 99% were vaccinated, only one para-state out. And I think you can find an opportunity for teachers who have pre-existing medical conditions that don't allow them to take that vaccine, or primary care physicians that said don't take that vaccine, and have them teach in a remote fashion to all of the students that are attending remotely. Again, we don't live in the same world we used to live in a few years ago. Right now, here we are, all in probably different parts of Staten Island, New York, and New York City, and we're having a very, very productive meeting. I think the school teachers should be afforded that same right as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Steve, interject anytime. I'm going to go on to the next one, and I think, Leticia, that you start us off the next time, if you don't mind. So here's the question. How do you think senior centers should adapt to meet the needs of tomorrow's aging residents? If elected, how would you help senior centers make the needed changes to ensure the needs of aging residents are met?
So I think that our senior centers are so important for our senior population, because it's where a lot of them go for their big meal of the day. But even almost as important is that's where many of them go to socialize. And it may be the only time that some seniors get out of the house. I will make sure that our senior centers are fully funded, and I will make sure that they have the capital funding that they need to have working kitchens, so that they can help feed those people who do, eat their big meals at the senior centers. The most important thing about the senior centers is we have to get them open. There's some centers that are still not open fully for everybody, and that's unfortunate. And I think it's really important for us to recognize that this pandemic is not the last pandemic we're going to see. And so those senior centers need to be equipped with technology, because, sometime, I checked on my seniors, and I have about a dozen that are over 90 that I call on a weekly basis to make sure that they're okay. But not everybody has that. So it would be a great idea for us to make sure that every senior center is technologically connected. And that we have some education classes on how to use those iPads and how to use those smartphones. And so as borough president, I will make sure that they are fully funded and fully operational, both technologically and with a complete kitchen.
Great, thank you. Go back to you, Mark. Would you like me to repeat the question, or are you ready to go on?
I think I'm just looking, I wrote it down here. Look, our senior centers are a vital part of Staten Island. We have so many great ones. Many of them are operated by a variety of different entities like the JCC or Catholic Charities or NYCHA in some instances, and they get grants, and we need to make sure that that grant money actually gets in their hands. One of the big problems I'm hearing from them, because I go and visit them on a rotating basis, is that they'll get grant money. They'll have to go and fund that themselves, and then they won't get paid from the city of New York. And that is just not acceptable. That our small not-for-profits are not getting the dollars that have been allocated to them, because they're constantly being questioned or quizzed by officials in New York City that have been given that information and that answer multiple times before. That's not fair to the senior center. It's not fair to the senior. In addition, I want to ensure that all senior centers anywhere, not just in Staten Island, but throughout the city of New York, that halal proteins or kosher proteins are there for the very specific senior and guest at that senior center, so that they can have ensure that they get the food that is appropriate for them. That's something that is very important to me. It's something I worked on with our seniors here and for our school children as well in public school. You know, Leticia had a good point about technology. Yes, we do need to leverage technology. We need to make sure that there is the technology in hand for our seniors that is ease of access so that they can get accessoride to and from, so that they can get to these places, because that seems to be one of the bigger issues where Staten Island is very different than the rest of the city of New York. Seniors in New York City take an elevator down to their senior center, where Staten Islanders take an accessoride or are driven or take an Uber to their senior center. And that's something where we need to leverage technology so that people can get to and from easily. They're not consistently waiting, that, you know, at home and are going to miss a meal, and it could be anxiety provoking. I want to make sure that we have a program in place from the borough president's office, or we work with another agency, the Agency for the Aging in New York City, to make sure that they have a technology that will help them get to and from the senior center. That's a huge important of mine, and that's really how I like to focus on our senior centers.
Thank you so much. Okay. Going to go on to the next question. We're trying to hit a lot of different areas here. And this question, I think, goes to you first, Mark. So as people continue to increasingly rely on the internet for physical and mental health services via telehealth and to combat social isolation, as you mentioned before, with online programming and connections, what would you do to ensure that more older residents have access to affordable, high-speed internet access?
Very good question. Again, the internet is essentially licensed to these companies to then charge us for its use by the government. And I'd like to see seniors at a certain income threshold, same thresholds that are met for tax, real estate tax reductions and abatements, that they too would be able to receive basic internet that's high speed, that they could have the ability to get online and have those telehealth and teledoc appointments, that they can again utilize it to leverage that technology to get out of the house and get to their senior center. But when we get to a certain, folks are on a fixed income, and they're going to need to have to make a choice between paying for prescription drugs or paying for the internet. They're going to take their prescription drugs, and I don't want them to have to make that choice. I want to make sure that we can get that into their homes, make sure that they get that, work with Verizon, work with Spectrum to get them a plan that is not just affordable, and if it comes to a point that it's free. So that is something I am a big believer in and always have been, and I would never want somebody to have to make that choice.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, Leticia, I know you mentioned actually social isolation earlier, so.
Yes. Yeah, I have had a great relationship and great successes in working with large corporations to make sure that people who can't afford the service can get the service. And most of the corporations do allow for that on an individual basis. As borough president, I am going to press very, very hard with Verizon and with Spectrum to make sure that they give a senior discount. And quite frankly, I'd like to work with our assembly and our senators members to get something similar to the property tax bill, where we have the STAR program, the discount program for seniors. We need that in New York for seniors with our internet. And the other thing that we need to do for our seniors is to make sure that because I'm talking about the state and the city, recently Mayor de Blasio actually changed medical coverage for senior citizens or for retirees who retired from city government, including the fire and police department. This should not be allowed. We should not have government changing plans for healthcare or for anything that they give to senior citizens without allowing for seniors to be grandfathered in. So I really would work with our state officials and our city officials to make sure that we are able to reduce some of the tax burden, because a lot of this technological burden, the cost of technology, are taxes, our state and city taxes, and MTA taxes. So we need to be able to push those aside for our senior population so that they have access to high-speed internet. And we also have to make sure that the city itself doesn't play shell games with their medical coverage.
Back to you, Steve.
Just to keep it a little personal and get to know you a little bit, where do each of you go to get your haircut or stylized? And the last time you were there, what was the conversation? What was the barbershop or beauty shop conversation that you could recall? And we'll start with Leticia, please.
Okay, well, I am fortunate to have a wonderful hairdresser who is like family to me, and her name is Angela, and she cuts my hair in her basement. And when we talk, the last time that she and I spoke, she was very, very concerned about her children's future and the future of this borough, whether her kids were going to be able to find a job, a good paying job, because she cuts hair and she works another job because she was paying to put her kids through college. And her concern in the conversation that we had was, what kind of job will they have when they get on the other side of education? And that's when she and I actually started talking about the jobs that make New York City go, like road construction, like IT, like plumbing, like tile workers, all these good union jobs that we need in New York to keep us going. But more and more children are graduating from college without knowledge and skills to work with their hands. And so it was from that conversation, Steve, that we started to talk about vocational training in high school and the opportunities that we should give our kids to transition into a good paying job right out of high school if they don't want to go to college, or they can't, college might not be for them, or even if they want some college but want to work with their hands ultimately. And so that was a conversation, and I started talking to some of the unions to see if they would be interested in setting up apprenticeship programs and working with the high schools, and they said they would. So I'm very excited about that happening after I'm borough president.
Thank you. And Mark.
Wow, Leticia, that's go from hair all the way to to vocational work. Good job. I get my hair. There's a great guy right up the street on Oakland Avenue and Forest Avenue. Kenny, young Kenny is really the American dream. He's a young Albanian immigrant, came to this country, didn't speak the language, didn't know even where the bathroom was. And now he is, in there cutting hair every day. He's got just bought himself a brand new car. He does a very good job for me and my son. During the height of pandemic, he would come to my house and he would cut my hair on my front porch because, we couldn't go into the salons and things like that. We were all getting a little bit long. And, it was really, it was really neat to see this young guy. He bought his first car, and then he called me and he's like, "Oh my God, there's speed cameras." And I said, "Yeah, there are speed cameras." And he was like, "I can't believe this." But they're always at the downslope, or they're always on the upslope. They're always when you got to accelerate into them, or you got to slam the brakes on because it's impossible to get away from them. And I told him, I said, "Look, the city of New York punishes Staten Island, and it's because we have 5% of or 6% of the population of New York City. We have 19% of the cars. So this mayor has gone out of his way to try to tax us again on our cars by putting speed cameras everywhere and then lowering the speed limits. You go out to the south end of Staten Island on Victory Boulevard, there are more deer than there are cars on the road at night, and you have a speed limit of 30 miles an hour. It's ridiculous. These speed cameras should be shut off late at night. They should be there for enforcement by schools, but they shouldn't be there as a revenue generating tool. My staff and I drafted the Speed Camera Fairness and Accountability Act, which we were going to present to our state senator and our state assemblyman and our city council. And if they won't introduce it, I'll introduce myself. And that makes sure that they remove these speed cameras where they are unnecessary. If they do have them, that they put grooves in the ground so that you just like they have on the side of the road to wake you up when you're going off the side of the road, to let you know that they're coming up. Because if somebody is going 32 miles an hour and they forget that it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, at least they're warned that it's there. It's about compliance. It's not about revenue. And that's what I think we want. We do want to slow people down in school zones. That's important. But I think we need to make sure that we're not being overburdened and overtaxed, and I'd like to have those removed. It's all because Kenny came up to me and he said, I just got my first car and now I'm getting my first camera tickets. And I said, let's really have a talk about that.
Although, you know, it's interesting you mentioned that. One concern from a lot of seniors that I hear from is there's been a lot of traffic incidents. The elderly, there's delivery drivers that sometimes go the wrong way down one-way street. A lot of pedestrians do like to walk. And the elderly, they've been a substantial amount of victims under the mayor's Vision Zero plan. How would you look at creating a transportation system within Staten Island that will protect both the pedestrians and the bike riders? And let's start with Mark.
Well, you know, the pedestrians and the bike riders, again, Staten Island is very different than New York City, where they have created a bike lane and placed the cars in between the artery of the road and the bike lane. We can't do that in Staten Island on Richmond Terrace. There's not enough room. We have, you know, 1,800 roads, not 2,020 width of roads. So we have to live within that constraint. And in addition, you know, the pedestrians in Staten Island are walking in much more, you know, tree-lined neighborhoods where we are not really subjected to high-speed traffic. You don't typically see an enormous amount of senior pedestrians along Highland Boulevard or Richmond Terrace. You may see some at a senior center like the Korean Senior Center down near Union Avenue, but for the most part, those are unique to the other boroughs of New York City, not necessarily unique to Staten Island. I'd like to see our roads paved better so that those bike lanes can be easier traffic and people aren't swerving out of the way of a giant pothole and into a bike lane, so somebody could potentially be injured. I want to see, you know, some more robust driver education, especially for, you know, our young high school kids who think that, you know, the day they get their fancy red sports car, that they can drive 70 miles an hour down Huguenot Avenue and have it be a point of pride on Staten Island Live because, you know, somebody videotaped it. I was actually on the road the day that that guy was doing that, and it just, again, it's like you have to know with great power behind the wheel comes great responsibility, and the more powerful that vehicle, the more responsible one must be. So I think there's an education element to this as well, and it's something that we as Staten Islanders, especially you know, kids that are going to be getting a car, you know, they have to understand that, and that's an education piece.
Thank you. And Leticia?
Smart traffic light technology. This is the greatest technology that we have at our fingertips and at our disposal right now to make sure the traffic flows and pedestrians are kept safe. And it's been used in New York City already. It's been used on Staten Island already. Some people who have traveled across in front of the College of Staten Island might remember the traffic jams that were always there. Well, Bloomberg used that traffic light, that intersection for a pilot program to install a smart traffic light. What is that? Well, that is a camera that looks at all the road at that intersection, and engineers in real time move the traffic forward. When it starts to back up, they let the light stay green a little bit longer, and they can see what's going on if people need to cross, and they make their decisions to move the traffic forward. It works so well at the College of Staten Island that they installed it in Midtown Manhattan. It was called Midtown in Motion. And if you ever wondered why all of a sudden the Midtown traffic at one point under Bloomberg had broken up, that's why. It would cost about $15 million to do it, and it was actually working. Under Mayor de Blasio, it doesn't seem to be working so well. I think he had it turned off. But for Staten Island, I would want, and I will lobby very, very hard for us to get the $150 million in excess revenue from the Verrazano Bridge tolls dollars that is used every year to improve public transportation in New York City, it's spent always on the subways outside of Staten Island because we don't have a subway. The only time actually it was spent on Staten Island, they said it was Staten Island, I disagree, was to redeck the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. And they told me that that was spending it on Staten Island. And I told them to keep the bridge and give me smart traffic light technology. But at any rate, we can install for that $150 million, just 1 year, we can install smart traffic light technology on most of the intersections around Staten Island. What does that do? Well, it gets rid of the bus lanes, which are very, very dangerous because those bus lanes, you know, especially for seniors who have driven this island and are accustomed to driving at a certain mile per hour, and they know the roads that they take. Those bus lanes are dangerous because those buses ride that middle lane, you know, half in the bus lane, half out, and they come in and out. They have caused accidents. We don't need the bus lane. We don't need the traffic, the speed cameras. We don't need the red light cameras. And what we get rid of along with the cameras and the tickets is driver frustration. And at the end of the day, that is what causes a lot of accidents, is driver frustration or fear of getting caught by one of these cameras. And when you're looking at your speedometer, you're not looking at what's in front of you or what's on the side of you. So smart traffic light technology should be installed all over New York City. But as Borough President, I'm going to make sure that it's installed here. And I'm going to ensure that we're going to have safe roads. Just an FYI, when I was chair of Community Board 1, I actually passed the protected bike lanes along Clove Road and in other areas of Staten Island, but those bike lanes can't go everywhere and they don't connect everywhere. And so we really do need to reconfigure and think about how best to serve the cyclist community. They don't belong on Highland Boulevard for sure.
Thank you. Beth, you have a question?
Well, actually, I was thinking a little bit more around if you would say one thing that you love the best about Staten Island and why you think every other New Yorker should love Staten Island, what would that be? And start with you, Leticia. What would that be?
Our sense of community. The wonderful thing about Staten Island is we pull together. And, you know, we have so many cultures living here in Staten Island, and the North Shore is different than the South Shore, is different than the West Shore, is different than the East Shore. But the one thing that I have had the benefit of seeing is Staten Island pull together. I saw it after 9/11 when I, you know, helped with the Red Cross, and Staten Island spirit was going strong. You know, we had at the time I was working for the Mayor Bloomberg campaign, and the mayor and Bloomberg gave us his headquarters, and we used it as a Red Cross center, and people came and dropped off socks and t-shirts and all the things that people on the pile and the firefighters who were looking for people used. And it was an amazing feeling to see all these people coming together. One man came up, it was a Friday night, gave us his whole paycheck for the week to help those people that needed it. And then again, after Sandy, I was the head of the community board response team for Staten Island. And so myself and the other community board members in boards 1, 2, and 3 got together, and we moved along the East Shore, and we helped. We created food pantries. We created a Thanksgiving celebration for people whose kitchens were pulled out. We actually had a Christmas free shopping spree for people who, you know, they couldn't get to the stores. They were living in one room because everything was flooded after Sandy. And so I worked with the fashion community, and we brought that to South Bend, and it was just fantastic, you know, to have people be able to shop for free for Christmas. So if I had to say one thing that nobody else has like Staten Island, it's community. And I want that to happen, 10 times as much as it happens.
Great answer. Okay. Mark, what do you want to tell everyone they need to love about Staten Island?
Well, Leticia's not wrong. The people of Staten Island are the best. I love Staten Island. I love the community of Staten Island. The rallying together that people do in time of crisis in Staten Island is overwhelming. It really, to be somebody who has run for election during Superstorm Sandy and suspended my entire election to go help the people, you got to put them first. And that is one of the great things about Staten Island. One of the things I love about Staten Island, I mean, there's about three of them, but one is that we're an island. We've got the highest point on the natural point on the eastern seaboard of the United States, inside of the green belt. We've got these incredible forests. We've got incredible beaches. We've got parks that are just enormous and beautiful, and cultural centers that are world class. And to me, to have all of this, it warrants protecting it. It warrants standing up for the community, standing up for that, and making sure that those things are protected and not taken away. That to me is what makes Staten Island great. Again, yes, it's community, yes, it's people, but also the place itself. I live right next door to Sailor Snug Harbor. I love that place, to be able to go through there every single day on my morning walk, because I'm not running anymore, and to just see how it has maintained its stature, to go out to the South Shore, into Great Hills, to take my son to the parks out there, and to walk the beaches, and to see the sea turtles. This is the city of New York, and you would not think that you would be able to do that. And that is what is so special about Staten Island.
We just got a question in, Steve, in the chat box. It's Joe who's asking. He's saying he's a local entrepreneur in digital marketing industry, and he's been in business for past 4 years, and he'd like to know what the next borough president should do to help a lot of small business owners on Staten Island. So, Mark, we'll go to you first, and then we'll go to you, Leticia.
Small business, I am a business owner in Staten Island, and I watch, and I have many friends who are business owners as well. And I watch the city of New York and the unnecessary regulations that they put upon the business owners and how they punish them. And it's just not right. This is not unique to this mayor. It's unique to the city itself and the unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats that work inside the multiple different agencies of this city. This happened back when I was working for the public advocate of the city of New York, and the Department of Health would just go on a random weekend, raid stores and try to shut them down, like they did to Alfonso's the day before all of the first communions on Staten Island. And we had to fight and get a court injunction to get them back open so that they could produce all of the cupcakes they needed, all because they couldn't open a door to a travel agency that was next door to them in their building. The Department of Health couldn't understand that they weren't hiding anything, that they could walk around. These outrageous regulations and its minutia of regulation, and the enforcer of that regulation is always the individual on the ground there, unfortunately, in a confrontation with a business owner during rush hour lunch, during rush hour dinner. And it's just terrible to have to watch, and I've seen it, where a pizzeria owner will stand there and he will say, you know what, we're closed, everybody out. And you sit there in the middle of dinner, and this person has to lose their livelihood because they're getting these kind of just willy-nilly inspections. It goes into our vaccine mandates in Staten Island and how they demand that a restaurant owner become the vaccine police. Look, I put the responsibility on the individual. You can't punish a restaurant and ask them to make those kind of business decisions. It goes beyond that, even to our heavy construction industry. There are guys that take sand and stone into New York City every single day in big tracks or dump trucks. These are small business owners, many of them. These are minority small business owners, and this is their first time ever owning a truck. This is their business. They go into Manhattan, they get online to Hudson Yards or to a city job where they have to drop that big 55,000 pounds of stone, and the city runs over and they start writing them a ticket for no idling. Well, you got 12 trucks in a row, you got to idle. Well, I'll turn my truck off. Well, now I'm going to write you a ticket for no standing. And they get a $1,000 ticket a day for going to a job in New York City. Those guys are out of business. That's the city of New York destroying the American dream. And to me, that's just not right. This is a city where there are city council members, I think this time around, that not one single, I think there's only one that will have ever had a job in business other than being an employee of the city of New York or of the state of New York or a staffer, and has no concept of accountability, no concept of how to balance a budget. I have said that I will have on my staff an engineer and expediter that will help every single contractor, every single small builder in Staten Island, and every single homeowner if they have a problem with the Department of Buildings or Department of Transportation. I have said I will have a small business specialist on staff that will be there to help any small business owner navigate Department of Health, Department of Consumer Affairs, or any of these other agencies that look to put outrageous and onerous restriction on them. I am a businessman first. I believe in results from our business. We need to have safe and clean working environments and safety and OSHA for our individuals, but we must not allow the city of New York and its unaccountable, unelected bureaucrats destroy the American dream.
Thank you.
We got to kind of be a little short because we're running out of time. But
I know, unfortunately, I have a hard stop. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the best thing that can happen for small business on Staten Island is that Bill de Blasio gets out of office on January 1st in 2022. The next greatest thing would be to elect Leticia Ramauro as your borough president. Honestly, I owned my first small business when I was 21 years old. It was a restaurant. And the reason that I got involved in politics was because of the onerous taxes that Governor Cuomo, then governor, the father Cuomo, was putting on small businesses in New York. Now, fast forward for the last 8 years, and Staten Island small businesses have been suffering under the same onerous taxes, but add with that mandates and closures and just people who don't know what they're doing. And that's unfortunate that Bill de Blasio has just been such a bad mayor for small business. But instead of going after Bill de Blasio, let me tell you what I would do. Number one is we need empowerment zones. We need to be able to reduce the taxes in certain areas on Staten Island because they're just too high. Property taxes are too high. Commercial property taxes are too high, and for both for homeowners and for business owners. So we have to get that tax structure straight, that property tax structure straight. And the best way to do that in the short term is to have empowerment zones. So I would work with our state officials to try and get empowerment zones, especially on the East Shore, because so many businesses closed down after Sandy, never to come back again. And also on the West Shore, very, very important, as well as on the North Shore, where we want to see some development happening. I would absolutely want to see a discount for our trucks on Staten Island for the Verrazano Bridge. Right now, we have a resident discount, and for businesses that use the bridge frequently, you do have a discount there, but you don't have a resident business discount on the Verrazano Bridge. And that puts us at a disadvantage, especially our construction companies, because when they bid a job, as Mark was saying, the idling, they get a ticket for idling. Well, you know what? They also have a crazy kind of rule in New York that you can't have your dump truck filled to the top. Because it's too heavy. There are certain roads that you cannot have a full load. So you have to make more trips if you're carrying asphalt or if you're carrying debris. So for Staten Island, those companies who are bidding are going to be at a disadvantage because of that toll. And therefore, we're going to get less business. So we need that toll discounted for businesses. We need the grants for COVID to be distributed properly. Right now, the city of New York are distributing the grants according to the economic condition of the zip code, not the economic condition of the business or the impact of the business. I could go on and on, but I think that those are, the fact that I've owned a business since I've been 21 and I own one now, I think that I have a good grasp of what to do to help all businesses on Staten Island.
Thank you. We're just about out of time. If you'd like to each make a brief closing statement on why you believe the over 50 people should vote for you for Staten Island Borough President. And we'll start with Leticia. Like I say, try to keep it relatively short, please.
You got it. So I think not only the over 50 people should vote for me, but I think every registered voter should vote for me because I am just like you. I'm not a politician and I'm not endorsed by any politician because I didn't want the endorsement of politicians because frankly, both major parties have been teaming up together and the problem is that they're against us. They've been working against us because they've been growing government. And when government grows, individuality and people suffer. And we're seeing that in Washington. We're seeing that in New York City. We're seeing that in New York State. I'm running on the Conservative Party line because I want to bring a different type of government to Staten Island. I want to bring a government to Staten Island where Borough Hall is activated all the time. I want to bring borough boards back to Borough Hall, where the community and the city council and the borough president and the community boards all get together to make a plan for Staten Island. I want to make sure that district service cabinet meetings happen in Staten Island. That's where all the commissioners of the city get together with the borough president to make plans for Staten Island. The biggest problem that we've had for the last 8 years is lack of planning. And when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'm a manager. I'm a CEO. I am a planner. I was in Battery Park City Authority during 9/11 and I helped to recover it. And I'd ask for you to vote for me on November 2nd, Leticia Ramauro, Conservative Row C. If you want a different government, you have to vote differently.
Thank you. And Mark, please, why do you think people, particularly the over 50 crowd, should vote for you for Staten Island Borough President?
Steve, Beth, thank you very much. Well, I got my AARP card this January when I turned 50. So I will be voting for myself, and I am the over 50 crowd. But I genuinely believe that I have a track record of effectively showing up for and performing for my community. I'm a results-driven businessman here in Staten Island, and if I don't get results, I'm out of business. So, and I'm not out of business. I really believe in Staten Island, and I believe that the work that I have done in the past to help seniors in our NYCHA properties, the seniors that I've helped all through Staten Island, is something that people recognize and they see. They know who I am and they know my reputation. They know that I right now have a seat at the table in New York City, that I have a relationship with the incoming mayor of the city of New York and many of the department heads that he will be choosing to run those agencies. And they need someone like Mark Murphy, like me, who is 50, to go and act as if I'm 25 again and be the most engaged and most aggressive and most proactive borough president in the modern years of the borough president's office. That is my commitment. And it is my commitment to make sure we have a seat at the table, that we get our fair share, that we make Staten Island first once again. Well, if we ever have been, but I want to make sure that that is the mission that I have, that we advance Staten Island's interests above all others, and that we are able to take care of ourselves. Again, I'm Mark Murphy. I'm running on the Democratic ticket and the Staten Island First Party, and I will be there for you beginning January 1st when you elect me borough president.
Thank you very much. We want to thank Beth Finkel from AARP. It was great co-hosting with you. And we want to thank AARP for sponsoring tonight's PoliticsNY's debate with the candidates for Staten Island Borough President. This debate was recorded. To share the recording, visit us at youtube.com/PoliticsNY. And don't forget to vote on November 2nd, with early voting taking place from October 23rd to 31st. My name is Stephen Witt. Good night to everybody in this debate and listeners. Thank you.
Good night, Steve. Good night, Beth. Good night,
Thank you,
Mark.
everyone.
Thank you, Leticia. Beth, Steve, have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.